It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. Machiavelli's words echo across centuries because they reveal a truth most resist. Respect is rarely born from attachment, but from distance. The weight of an untouched crown commands more awe than one passed from hand to hand. You live in a world where everyone clings to attention, approval, and constant reassurance. Yet the more you grasp, the less you are valued. Dependence is slavery, and slavery of the mind erodes authority before any battle begins. Marcus Aurelius practiced a form of distance, retreating into his own writings instead of begging the crowd for applause. Elizabeth I often kept her court uncertain, appearing at moments of her choosing, never bending to constant demands. Their restraint projected control. Their detachment multiplied their respect. When they stepped forward, it mattered, because they had the discipline to remain apart until the right moment. You must learn the same. Look at modern life. A manager who does not hover over every detail, but speaks only when necessary, commands more weight in the room. A partner who carries calm independence is taken more seriously than one who pleads for attention. Even among friends, the one who is not constantly available is treated with more regard. Scarcity breeds value. What is rare is respected. What is desperate is dismissed. Detachment is not absence. It is presence with restraint. It is knowing when to step back so your return carries force. Speak less, and each word strikes harder. Step back, and each step forward feels like command. Even in moments of disagreement, the detached leader prevails. Imagine a heated discussion at work. Others raise their voices, pushing harder to be heard. You remain still, your silence louder than their shouting. When you finally speak, measured and calm, the noise collapses beneath your composure. Picture the king, who never begs his subjects for applause. He sits in silence, yet the hall trembles. That is the image you must embody. Not the one who scrambles for every glance, but the one who chooses when to be seen. Detachment is not coldness, it is sovereignty. Pull back, and people lean in. Detach to rise, detach to rule, detach to be remembered. Hold this line as your law. Respect follows distance. The throne is not lost in public, but in the private chambers of the mind. Before you rule others, you must first rule your thoughts. Detachment begins here, because if your inner throne is cluttered with neediness, your sovereignty collapses before a single battle is fought. The mind is the citadel, and every thought you allow either fortifies its walls or leaves its gates unguarded. Psychology shows that what is scarce is valued more than what is abundant. This is the scarcity effect, and it governs human perception in every era. When your time, words, or presence are endlessly available, they lose their edge. When you pull back, when you choose with precision where your energy goes, you become rare. Commands attention, rare attracts respect. It is not cruelty, it is strategy. To guard the throne of your mind, you must resist the impulse to spill your presence everywhere, because the kingdom of respect is built on controlled distance. Look at modern life. Social media rewards noise, endless updates, and constant performance. Yet the voices that cut through are not always the loudest. They are often the ones who hold back, who speak rarely, but with force. Think of the leader who does not post daily, but commands weight when they finally do. The silence before their words magnifies their authority. If you flood the battlefield with constant signals, you drown in your own noise. If you ration your presence, every move is amplified. Picture the throne surrounded by courtiers. Everyone speaks at once, clamoring for attention, desperate to be heard. The king listens, silent, watching, calculating. When he finally speaks, the room falls still. His words carry weight, because they are not frequent. They are chosen. This is the power of mental detachment. You must learn to treat your thoughts as sovereign commands, not as scattered whispers. Rule them, or they will rule you. Guard your throne by disciplining your focus. Do not give your energy to every distraction. Do not cheapen your attention by scattering it across endless trivialities. Choose what enters your mind as carefully as a king chooses who enters his chamber. In a world where everyone is addicted to immediacy, your restraint becomes your weapon. Hold the throne in silence. Guard the throne with scarcity. Rule the throne with distance. The mind obeys the law you set. Remember the command. Detachment begins in the mind. Morning is the battlefield where sovereignty is either won or lost. The first moments after you rise decide whether you command the day or surrender it. Detachment begins here, before the world has touched you, before the noise invades. If you do not secure this ground, you start the day already captured. Psychology makes this clear. Decision fatigue builds as the day unfolds, and every choice consumes a part of your strength. If you scatter your energy early, you weaken the throne of your mind before noon. The sovereign who wastes his first commands cannot lead the campaign. But when you guard your mornings, you conserve authority for battles that matter. This is why rulers and thinkers across history valued early discipline. They knew the first orders of the day shaped the entire war. Look at the modern world. The moment most people wake, they reach for their phones. They scroll, they compare, they absorb the demands of others before they have spoken a single command to themselves. This is not a harmless habit. It is the surrender of position. You hand over the battlefield of your mind before you have drawn your sword. Contrast this with the one who begins the day in silence. Instead of reacting, they pause. Instead of chasing, they plan. Their stillness is not laziness, it is formation. Soldiers do not charge without alignment. Leaders do not speak without clarity. You must treat your first hour with the gravity of strategy, not the weakness of impulse. Picture the general at dawn, standing on high ground. The field is quiet, the air sharp. He does not rush into the chaos. He surveys, he measures the terrain, he counts his forces, he sets the direction. That moment of calm is not wasted. It is the foundation of victory. You are that general. Your battlefield is your morning. The silence you protect is the weapon that carries through the noise of the day. The practice is simple but not easy. Resist the reflex to drown in screens. Delay speech until your mind has formed its command. Begin with ritual, not reaction. Write a line, breathe deeply, walk in silence or simply sit still. The form matters less than the principle. You decide first. Guard that sovereignty. Each morning becomes your rehearsal for authority. You cannot lead armies if you stumble into battle half-armed. You cannot command respect if your mind begins each day dependent on distraction. Take the high ground, hold it, and the rest of the day marches under your command. Carry this law with you. Win the morning, win the throne. A ruler does not need to shout to be heard. Power is revealed in the silence he chooses to keep. Machiavelli noted that strength is projected not through endless explanations, but through presence measured with precision. The sovereign who speaks rarely and with control commands more than the one who constantly pleads for understanding. Stillness itself becomes a weapon because it separates those who lead from those who chase. In every negotiation, every relationship, every room of conflict, the one who holds silence longer holds power. Words are arrows, and if you fire them too quickly, they lose their sting. The disciplined voice waits until the noise of others has weakened itself. You have seen this in meetings or discussions. One person rushes to fill every gap with talk, believing volume will prove authority. Another sits back, calm, listening. When the silence stretches and becomes uncomfortable, it is the quiet figure who holds the ground. When they finally speak, the air bends toward them. The difference is not eloquence alone, it is the authority of restraint. This is where detachment attracts respect. By not reacting instantly, you show that your emotions are not in chains. By not explaining every move, you prove that your judgment is its own justification. You are not pulled into the frantic rhythm of others. You impose your own tempo, and they must follow it. Picture a predator in the wild. The prey makes noise, scurries, announces its panic with every movement. The predator waits. It does not thrash. It does not rush. It is still, patient, unshaken. The longer it waits, the weaker the prey becomes, collapsing under the weight of its own noise. That is the essence of stillness as power. You need no show of force when your very calm creates tension others cannot endure. Consider a disagreement at work. A colleague interrupts you, eager to dominate the exchange. Instead of competing with their noise, you remain composed. You let their words fall into silence. You nod, you breathe, you do not rush to defend. When you finally answer, slow and clear, the tone shifts. Your authority was not in louder volume, but in the discipline to remain unmoved. That is what separates command from chaos. Resist the urge to fill every pause. Guard your silence as you would guard a weapon. Let others reveal themselves in noise while you hold your position in calm. Your presence will expand without effort, because stillness is rare and therefore unforgettable. Remember this law. Silence commands. Weakness in your circle is weakness on your throne. Detachment is not only about pulling back, it is about cutting away what drags you down. A sovereign cannot afford dead weight because, in moments of crisis, the weakest link breaks first and endangers the whole structure. History offers countless lessons. Strong rulers survived not because they surrounded themselves with many voices, but because they chose carefully, and when loyalty faltered or incompetence threatened, they acted decisively. Survival often depended on pruning, not pleasing. The sovereign who hesitated was the one who lost the crown. You face the same law today. Your authority erodes when you cling to ties that corrode your strength. Toxic friendships, unreliable colleagues, or relationships built on dependency drain energy that should be reserved for your own rule. The cost of keeping them is rarely visible at first, but it compounds like rust on steel. The longer you delay, the deeper it eats into your foundation. People confuse detachment with cruelty, but detachment is clarity. You do not cut because you hate. You cut because you must protect the throne of your life from collapse. Imagine carrying a rope that is tied to a sinking weight. Each step drags you lower into the mud. To keep moving, you must sever it. The sword in your hand is your decision. Cutting is not destruction of another. It is preservation of yourself. Authority requires that you see the danger early and act before it drags you under. Waiting for proof of betrayal or harm is weakness. Machiavelli observed that rulers often fell because they trusted too long. You cannot beg loyalty from the disloyal. You cannot polish weakness into strength. You must choose decisiveness over hope. Consider a workplace example. A team member consistently misses deadlines, undermines trust, and spreads discontent. Addressing it calmly, you make expectations clear. Still, the pattern continues. Others watch. If you tolerate it, your authority erodes. If you act with firmness, the standard is set. Silence is not always strength. Sometimes, silence must break with decisive elimination. Respect follows those who remove corrosion rather than let it spread. Detachment is a shield, but it is also a sword. Guard your space from ties that weaken it. Cut ropes dragging you down. Replace weakness with strength. Show that your throne is not open to decay. In this way, detachment is not cruelty but survival. Appearances matter more than reality. Machiavelli understood that perception is the battlefield where power is won or lost. You may possess wisdom, strength, or clarity, but if you cannot project them with control, they vanish in the eyes of others. Authority comes not from flooding the stage with presence, nor from vanishing into invisibility, but from wearing the mask of command. The mask is not deception, it is discipline, it is the art of balance, the practice of being detached yet undeniably present. Detachment does not mean disappearing. If you retreat too far, you are forgotten. If you push too close, you are diminished. The sovereign knows that distance sharpens respect, but visibility keeps relevance alive. The mask of command is how you strike this balance. You appear when the moment demands, yet you never show the full depth of your thoughts. You hold back just enough to remain unreadable. People lean in, uncertain of what you truly think, and that uncertainty breeds respect. Look at modern leaders under crisis. When chaos strikes, most scramble, their words spilling too quickly, their emotions betraying their control. The ones who project calm detachment seize authority without shouting. In a boardroom argument, the frantic executive loses ground by over-explaining. The leader who speaks once, measured and steady, dominates the room. Even if they have said less, their presence carries more. Authority is not the volume of noise, it is the discipline of restraint. Picture the sovereign seated on his throne. Around him, courtiers argue, debate, demand answers. He wears the mask. He does not flinch. He does not reveal more than he chooses. His silence creates gravity. His glance redirects the entire hall. He is detached from the chaos, but present enough to command it. That is the image you must adopt. Your mask is not for hiding weakness. It is for amplifying strength. Weak. I need you to trust me. Strong. Trust will be proven. Weak. I'll explain everything. Strong. My decision stands. The difference is not arrogance. It is clarity. The words of a detached commander are carved in stone, not scattered in sand. By framing your language with firmness, you project the authority that makes others respect your distance. In personal life, the same law applies. A friend pressures you to justify every choice. If you rush to explain, you place yourself beneath them. If you respond calmly, "This is what I've decided," you remain both present and sovereign. The mask is not cold, it is the crown. Authority grows from what you withhold as much as from what you reveal. Guard your mystery, appear when it matters, withdraw when it protects your crown. The mask of command ensures that you are never too near to be taken for granted and never too far to be forgotten. Hold this line. Be distant, yet undeniable. Respect vanishes the moment you beg for it. The more you chase approval, the less weight your presence carries. Psychology makes this plain. Neediness erodes authority. When people sense that your worth depends on their validation, they instinctively lower your value. True detachment is the opposite. It is the elimination of that hunger. It is the refusal to trade your sovereignty for applause. In every palace, there is an assassin hidden in the shadows. That assassin must be turned inward, toward the weakest enemy, the inner beggar for recognition. If you allow him to live, he will whisper before every action, asking, "Will they like me? Will they approve?" Each whisper strips your strength. To lead, to command, you must silence him. The blade is not physical, it is discipline. Cut down the compulsion to be liked. Guard the throne of your mind from the erosion of dependence. Modern culture thrives on validation. Social platforms, train people to equate approval with existence. Every like, every comment becomes fuel for identity. But the ones who rise above this are the ones who project indifference. They do not chase the crowd, they create distance. Ironically, this detachment is what draws people closer. In influencer culture, those who appear not to care often attract more devotion because mystery and restraint are rare. You cannot inspire respect if your every move screams for attention. The sovereign must decide, be common and dependent, or be scarce and respected. Picture the mask of command, but inside the palace walls. The courtiers chatter, eager for recognition, trading flattery for scraps of status. You remain silent, detached, your assassin already at work. The inner beggar is gone. You no longer need their applause. By killing that dependency, you free yourself from their control. What you offer becomes choice, not desperation. What you project becomes command, not plea. Even in daily conflict, this truth is visible. A colleague challenges your idea, expecting you to defend yourself frantically. Instead, you pause, calm, and say, "This is the path I've chosen." No pleading, no apology. Respect follows because you did not crumble in the face of disapproval. You did not need to be liked to continue. Weak, I hope this is okay with you. Strong, this is the direction we will take. Weakness kneels, strength stands. Detachment does not mean arrogance. It means sovereignty over your own worth. When you no longer seek to be fed by the applause of others, you hold the crown in your own hands. Authority begins when you stop asking for permission to exist. Remember this command: kill the need, and respect is born. Solitude is not emptiness. Solitude is strength. The weak fear being alone because they rely on constant noise to feel alive. But the sovereign sees solitude as the forge where independence is made. Nietzsche once wrote that the individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. That struggle is not only external. You must learn to hold your ground against the pull of endless company, because solitude sharpens authority in ways that the crowd never can. When you detach from constant connection, you discover what most people cannot endure: silence. Modern life has trained people to fill every moment with chatter, texts, or screens. They cannot sit still because stillness forces them to face themselves. This addiction to noise weakens them. But if you embrace solitude, rise above it. Think of the difference between a person who cannot go a single hour without reaching for validation and one who thrives in silence, using it to think, to plan, to sharpen their will. The first is dependent, the second is sovereign. Respect flows naturally toward the one who proves they do not need constant company to command their space. Picture the lone wolf in the snow. He does not wander with the herd, desperate for safety. He walks alone, and that distance is what makes him feared. Others watch from afar, uncertain, because independence radiates power. When the time comes, he can lead a pack, but his strength does not depend on it. That is your model. You must feed your inner wolf with moments of solitude, so that your presence among others carries the aura of someone who could walk away at any time. Detachment is not absence. It is the ability to stand alone without losing force. Even in moments of disagreement, solitude is a weapon. A friend pressures you for constant replies, trying to make your silence a weakness. Instead of apologizing, you calmly explain, "I value my time alone. It makes me sharper." The boundary is clear. The respect that follows comes not from defensiveness, but from confidence. By holding your ground, you prove that you do not need their constant approval. The wolf does not beg. He sets his own path. Feed the wolf by embracing solitude daily. Put the phone down. Step away from the crowd. Allow silence to stretch without fear. Each time you resist the pull of the tribe, You strengthen the throne of your independence. The world respects the one who stands alone, because so few can. Remember this law. Solitude is sovereignty. Life is a chessboard, and every move you make signals either strength or weakness. On that board, the most valuable piece is not the one that races across squares with speed. It is the king, slow and deliberate, whose survival determines the game itself. The king is respected precisely because of his distance. He does not rush into reckless advances. He moves sparingly, each step calculated, his value magnified by restraint. That is the lesson of detachment. Presence must be strategic, not constant. In chess, pawns scatter forward, knights leap unpredictably, queens sweep the field with force. The king, however, advances one square at a time. Limited mobility, but unlimited consequence. His scarcity of movement makes every action carry meaning. In life, you must adopt the same discipline. The more you spread yourself thin, the more you resemble a pawn, expendable, forgotten. The less you rush, the more weight your presence gains. This is why leaders who hold back, who act only when necessary, often dominate those who are constantly in motion. Modern culture celebrates hustle, the image of constant activity. But history and experience show the opposite. Those who move less but think more achieve victories that frantic energy never secures. Business leaders who detach from the noise, who step back from every minor fire, conserve strength for decisive moves. The executive who sits quietly in a meeting, observing, often holds more power than the one scrambling to speak first. The difference lies in strategic distance. You do not win by exhausting yourself on every square. You win by choosing when to strike and when to wait. Picture the king staying behind while every other piece rushes forward. He does not chase. He does not prove himself with speed. Yet all the pieces on the board move for him. His stillness commands their activity. That image is your model. You must learn to detach from the illusion that respect is earned through constant display. Respect is earned through scarcity of motion and precision of choice. Each decision must be deliberate, not desperate. Even in moments of disagreement, this principle matters. Imagine a heated debate at work. One person insists on filling the air with justifications, trying to overwhelm the room. You remain composed, detached, speaking only once, with clarity. That single statement outweighs their entire performance. Weak. I'll explain why over and over. Strong. Here is the decision. Weakness chases validation. Strength stands on position. Detachment on the chessboard of life does not mean hiding. It means moving with purpose, conserving your force, and recognizing that restraint is often the deadliest weapon. The king survives not by chasing every square, but by controlling the board through distance. Hold this law in your mind as you step into every arena. Move less, command more. Respect is not earned once and secured forever. It must be forged daily, in the same way steel is hardened through fire and hammer. Detachment is not a single act of withdrawal, it is a ritual discipline. Without constant reinforcement, neediness creeps back, and the throne of your authority weakens. Every day you rise, you face the same test. Will you guard your crown with restraint or surrender it to distraction and dependency? The Stoics understood this truth. Marcus Aurelius wrote each morning to himself, not to an audience, as a ritual of clarity. Seneca practiced rehearsing loss in thought, detaching in advance from things that could vanish. These daily practices were not for show, but for sovereignty. They trained the mind to resist panic, to resist the need for approval, to resist the erosion of power by triviality. You must adopt the same posture. Ritual is the armor you put on before stepping into the world. Without it, you enter battle unarmed. In the modern world, the ritual is saying no. No to the cheap pull of validation. No to the endless cycle of scrolling that scatters your focus. No to the temptation of immediate comfort that weakens long-term strength. Each refusal is not just restraint. It is affirmation that your time, attention, and energy are sovereign. Weak, I'll try to avoid distractions. Strong, I will not allow distractions. Weak, I hope I can stay focused. Strong, focus is my command. Language frames discipline. When you shift from apology to declaration, you reinforce your will. Picture steel forged in fire. Each morning is the furnace. You choose whether your detachment will emerge sharper or whether it will be dulled by carelessness. The ritual does not need grandeur. It can be silence before speech, a line written before action, a breath taken before engagement. What matters is not the form, but the consistency. Like the hammer striking iron, the repetition is what makes the blade unbreakable. Even in small conflicts, ritual proves its value. Imagine a colleague urging you to react instantly to a problem. Instead of rushing, you apply your ritual of pause. You take a breath, survey the matter, and decide with calm. Your refusal to be pulled into their urgency reinforces your authority. The respect you earn is not from the decision itself, but from the discipline of detachment you displayed. Respect is built not in grand gestures, but in repeated choices. Ritual sharpens your edge and shields your mind from erosion. If you abandon it, you drift into noise. If you keep it, you stand like steel, unshaken, undeniable. Hold this mantra as your law. Discipline is the fire that forges detachment. Detachment is not absence. It is the aura that makes you untouchable. Machiavelli observed that rulers are respected when they appear unmoved by the swings of fortune. This is not indifference. It is control. The sovereign who does not flinch under pressure builds an atmosphere around himself that others cannot penetrate. His calm becomes a shield, and that shield transforms into reverence. The same law applies in modern life. Watch how authority shifts in a workplace. The colleague who panics when news turns bad, who overreacts to every small crisis, loses weight in the eyes of others. By contrast, the one who remains steady, who does not raise their voice or betray fear, becomes the anchor others gravitate toward. Detachment is not coldness here. It is reliability. People respect what they can lean on, and they lean on the figure who does not collapse at the first gust of pressure. Picture a throne elevated above a storm. The wind lashes, the rain falls, but the seat remains untouched. That is what detachment creates, a sense that nothing reaches you unless you allow it. This aura is not built overnight. It is forged through repeated refusals to be shaken. Each time you face a wave and remain still, you elevate your throne higher above the storm. Authority grows in how you respond to disagreement. Imagine someone attacking your judgment, expecting you to fight back with equal aggression. Instead, you pause, keep your tone level, and answer with a single measured line. This is the course we will take. Your refusal to be rattled transforms the moment. Others see not just what you said, but how you carried yourself. Weak, I'll explain until you agree. Strong, I have decided. Respect follows, because stability commands more than noise. Detachment is not withdrawal from life, but mastery of your reactions. You cannot control the storms, but you can control whether they touch you. Each time you resist the pull of emotional chaos, you expand your aura. Each time you stand firm, you teach others that your authority does not bend to moods, markets, or opinions. This aura cannot be faked. It must be earned through restraint. Becoming untouchable is the highest form of detachment. It is not about distance alone. It is about becoming the figure others watch and measure themselves against. They respect you because they cannot shake you. They follow you because storms do not move you. Hold this command above all. Stand higher than the storm. History makes this truth visible. Leaders became legends, not only through what they did, but through when they chose to step back. Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon, but he also knew when to bide his time in silence before seizing Rome. Elizabeth I preserved her reign by holding a careful distance from marriage alliances, never placing herself in another's control. Washington secured respect, not only by commanding victory, but by detaching at the height of his power, refusing a crown when it was offered. Each move proved the same law. Detachment multiplies authority. By not chasing, they drew the world toward them. The principle remains alive today. Scarcity governs perception. What is everywhere is ignored. What is rare is desired. In business, an artist who releases fewer works of higher quality creates greater demand. A leader who speaks less often is listened to more carefully when they finally speak. In relationships, the one who is not constantly available is valued more than the one who begs for attention. The law is simple. Absence sharpens respect. Presence without boundaries cheapens it. Detachment, then, is not an escape. It is a strategy. It is the art of knowing that distance, when chosen with discipline, increases power. Picture the battlefield. Soldiers clash. Banners fall, noise fills the air. The sovereign does not descend into the mud. He rises above, watching, calculating, his crown untouchable. The army moves for him, but he does not fight for their approval. His authority comes from position, not from panic. This is the essence of detachment. You do not win by wrestling in every argument, chasing every opinion, or pleading for every nod of validation. You win by staying above, by moving when the moment is decisive, and staying silent when the moment is beneath you. Even in daily conflict, this truth is tested. A colleague demands you justify your decision, expecting a long defense. Instead, you remain calm. You state, "This is the direction we will take." No excess words, no scramble for approval. Their noise grows weaker against your restraint. Weak. I'll explain until you agree. Strong. My decision stands. This is how detachment transforms respect. Authority is not in how loudly you fight, but in how little you allow yourself to be shaken. To detach is to declare sovereignty over your own presence. You choose when to appear, when to withdraw, and when to strike. You shape perception by holding back what others spill too freely. Every ruler who endured understood this discipline. Every person who commands genuine respect practices it daily. Detachment makes you rare, and rarity makes you valuable. This is the convergence of every law you have heard. Guard the throne of your mind. Win the battlefield of the morning. Use silence as a weapon. Cut weak ties without fear. Wear the mask of command. Kill the hunger for validation. Feed the wolf of solitude. Move like a king on the chessboard. Forge daily rituals of discipline. Through each principle runs one thread. Detachment is the source of respect. Carry this image with you, the crown above the crowd, untouched by storms, untouchable by noise, elevated by distance. Respect rises toward it because it cannot be pulled down. Hold this law as your own. Detachment crowns the sovereign. It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. Machiavelli's line is not a command to cruelty but a warning. Respect does not come from clinging. Respect comes from distance. Every time you detach, you raise your value. Every time you cling, you erode it. The world respects what it cannot easily reach, and it dismisses what begs to be noticed. Look at how this plays out in modern life. The friend who constantly demands attention is tolerated, but rarely admired. The colleague who over-explains every choice is heard, but never respected. Contrast that with the one who is calm, deliberate, and scarce. Their words matter more precisely because they are not chasing validation. Each act of restraint makes their presence heavier, their aura harder to shake. Detachment is not about indifference. It is about clarity. It is the recognition that sovereignty requires you to guard your crown from the cheap pull of constant approval. Detachment sharpens both fear and love. It creates fear in those who realize they cannot manipulate you because your self-worth is beyond their reach. It creates love in those who admire strength, because stability is magnetic. This balance is the essence of respect. To detach is to send a signal. You are not desperate. You are not weak. You are not governed by the moods of others. Your rule is your own. The battlefield of respect is filled with those who lost by chasing too hard. They tried to buy loyalty with constant explanation, and they were forgotten. They tried to beg affection with endless availability, and they were dismissed. You must not repeat their mistake. Step back when your instinct is to cling. Speak less when your impulse is to justify. Allow silence to do the work of proving your strength. Your aura grows when you show you can walk away. Your authority expands when you stop asking for permission to exist. Respect is not demanded by pleading. It is granted to those who can stand apart without fear. Detachment is not withdrawal from life. It is mastery of your boundaries, the crown you refuse to hand to anyone else. This is your command. Stand apart, guard your crown, rule through detachment.